take the stand.
True, nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been, and am. But why will you say that I'm mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. And so, by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. You should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, just at midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh so gently. And then, when I'd made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed so that no light shone out, and then I thrust in my head. You would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Would a madman have been as wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously, oh so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye, and this I did for 7 long nights, every night just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, inquiring how he's passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed, to suspect that every night just at 12 I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did I. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph to think that there I was, opening the door, little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. The room was as black as pitch with a thick darkness, for the shutters were close fastened through fear of robbers, and so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on, steadily. I had my head in, and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still. I said nothing. For a whole hour, I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew that it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no, it was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt, and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he'd been lying awake ever since the first slight noise when he had turned into bed. His fears had been ever since growing in upon him. He'd been trying to fancy them causeless, but he could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor. It is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp. Yes, he has been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found all in vain. All in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard me, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I'd waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a single dim ray, like the thread of the spider, shot from out the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open. Wide open. And I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones, but I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct precisely upon the damned spot. And now, have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the senses? Now, I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as the watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet, I refrained, and I kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steady I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say. Louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I've told you that I am nervous. So I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet, for some minutes longer, I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst. And now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then sat upon the bed and smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length, it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. He was stone dead. There was no pulsation. His eye would trouble me no more. If you still think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head, and the arms, and the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out. No stain of any kind, no blood spot, whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all. When I'd made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart. For what had I to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged in the office, and they had been deputed to search the premises. When I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues. While I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things, but ere long I felt myself getting pale. I wished them gone. My head ached. I fancied a ringing in my ears, but still they sat and still chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definiteness until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice, and yet the sound increased. But what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, excited to fury by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, 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 and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no, they heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now, again, hark, louder, 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 louder. Villains! I shrieked. Dissemble no more! I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, here! It is the beating of his hideous heart.
Prosecution, do you have any questions for the defendant?
Defense first. I can go first.
Oh, all right.
Whatever you want.
Well, it's up to the judge.
Whatever you want, Joe. Your Honor.
All right. Correct. Defense. Do you have any questions for the defendant?
I do, actually. Okay, so you talk about how his eye, it bothered you. When did his eye first start to bother you?
Well, that's a good question. It's when I first noticed it was so big and so blue, it's like a veil was over it, and I kept staring at it and staring at it and staring at it, and I thought, certainly, there must have something wrong. I don't know, a few weeks ago, I can't remember exactly. Why does that matter? What's the point of that?
Just follow me here for a second, okay? Usually, when things bother me, I don't fixate on them. I try to run away from them. So, for example, his eye was clearly evil, right?
Thank you.
All right, but tell me why his eye was evil.
Why was his eye? I don't know. You'd have to ask Satan himself why his eye was evil. I didn't make the eye evil. I'm not a philosopher of evil. I just know it was evil.
Okay, is talking to Satan something you normally do? Like you just told me to ask Satan. I don't talk to Satan, but it sounds like you do. Is that something you do normally?
Oh, you're very clever. I'm glad I hired you. No, I don't talk to Satan. My point is, I do not have those powers. Therefore, you should not be asking me. You should be asking Satan, because he's the one that knows these sorts of things. So that's all I was saying. But you're very clever. I'll give you a point.
So, again, you notice his eye was evil. It starts to bother you.
Yes.
And what was your solution to that? What were you going to do about his evil eye?
I needed to eradicate evil from the world.
Oh, okay. So the only way that you could think of eradicating evil from the world would be to kill this man?
Of course, I had to destroy the vessel in which evil was harboring. It was incubating. It was growing. It would have destroyed the world.
It would have destroyed the world.
Ultimately, perhaps if I've left it to fester and grow.
Okay, but you also talked about how old this man was, right?
Yes.
Okay, so usually, the time he was older, would he really be able to let evil take over the world? You could have just let nature run its course.
Wow. Who should be on trial here, ladies and gentlemen? Let me explain some things to you, okay? Now, this evil, it was not about the old man. It was about evil that was inhabiting the old man. If I had let it run its course, do you think evil would care if some old man died naturally or not? No, it would have grown. It would have grown further and taken over the world.
Happen to think that the evil would have maybe invaded you.
Certainly
Were
not.
You afraid of that?
Certainly not. I'm not a normal human being. I'm the one who stops evil.
He's not a normal human being. So you think you're a little superior to people? You would have a superiority complex?
I don't think that. I know it.
Maybe you would think that killing somebody is okay. For him, though, not for you guys.
Thank you for understanding. Yes, I am superior. Now look, this is not bragging, this is not boasting, it's simply a fact. Like if you can run faster than that person or if they can swim faster than you, it's simply it's a fact that I have superior abilities to everyone else. That's what it is. I was given these abilities by God himself.
Okay, and who fact-checked that for you?
God himself gave me these abilities.
I think he means Wikipedia. So, speaking of, I'm happy you brought up God, actually.
Oh, good.
Because you did claim to be able to hear things in heaven and in hell.
Yes.
I don't hear things from heaven and hell.
That's because you're inferior to me.
No, I think it's because I'm sane.
Oh, I see. No, I'm saner than everyone else, okay? See, I'm so sane that I can see the sad little follies of ordinary human beings.
So if you're sane,
yes,
all of us are crazy.
No, I didn't say that. That's a false extrapolation of what I said.
It's what you said.
It's absolutely not what I said. It's not what I said at all.
Objection.
He thinks you are all
Thank you.
insane.
Objection.
Okay.
Your Honor, this is argumentative. Tell her to stop it.
Maybe I should hire him.
I think he's scared of me. Oh, I can proceed with my line of questioning.
We'll see how far you get.
Okay. All right. So he thinks that we're all insane, and the way that we would deal with something like this is, you know what I would do? I would move. Why didn't you just move? If you were trying to run away from evil, why didn't you just move?
Killing
him the only option.
Oh my God. All right, now I have several things to say about that. First of all, I was not running away from evil. I was stopping evil. I was eradicating evil for all of you. You all should be giving me a medal rather than putting me on trial. I'm not running away from evil. I'm eradicating it, and I'm not scared of it. I confronted it directly and stomped it out.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's get back to the old man, okay? All right. So at first you start out and you're just kind of spying on him every once in a while through a little hole.
If you want to use that word, it's inappropriate, okay? But okay, whatever.
Right. What would you do if someone was spying on you through a hole in the wall?
No one could spy on me. I would know before they even had the thought of spying on me. I would know all about it and I'd stop it.
How would you stop it?
I'm not going to say that in a court of law.
Oh, so you would kill him?
I didn't say anything. Or her.
Sure. But statistically, peeping Toms are men. Anyway. So, you would take care of it yourself. See, I would call the police.
Am I being put on trial for hypothetical things you're making up now? Is that what's happening?
Pretty much, because you're giving me a hypothetical statement here that you are better than everybody else. And
that's not hypothetical.
That you're not crazy.
Yeah, that's also not hypothetical. Those are both true.
Okay, so what did you think was going to happen when you went into this guy? So we've left peeping on him, okay? We're not spying on him anymore. And now we're approaching him in his own house. What did you think was going to happen?
I was going to exterminate evil from the world, eradicate evil from the world, and I did.
Okay, but also you were talking about how you could hear his heart beating and you could hear the evil inside of him. But then when you killed him and he screamed, you thought nobody would be able to hear that. That was a sane assumption of yours? Nobody would be able to hear you brutally murder this man?
Nobody was around. That's all. That's all.
Okay, nobody was around. Cool. I think we're good.
Prosecution, do you have any questions for the defendant?
Hello? Okay. Your first name is?
Let's say Philip.
Philip. You're an intelligent man, are you not?
Yes, thank you for noticing, sir.
And you're a handsome man, yes?
Oh, okay, sure, I'll take that, sure.
And you've been to school, yes or no?
I've had some schooling, yes.
And you did well when you were in school.
I did well, although I eventually saw I was more intelligent than all the teachers, so I didn't bother continuing.
And isn't that true in part because you often went to the library and read books?
Objection. What does this have anything to do with his saying? Going to the library?
Yes, I went to the library at times.
And the library helped you in your life, correct?
Up to a point until I realized that my own intellectual abilities overcame anything I could possibly read in a book because I had access to the higher intellect of God himself.
Yes, but all of that, isn't it true, came from your reading of books?
At first, I suppose, but not now. Now I am divinely inspired.
But initially it came from books.
We've already gone over this, but I'll allow you repeating yourself because, you have an inferior brain to me.
And isn't it true that you, when you were younger, you read the Bible?
Bible, sure, I read the Bible.
And that has influenced you, correct?
Well, hardly. It's more like background research as to what these foolish humans think.
If there was a dog right in front of you here, and you stepped on that dog, would that be right?
If I stepped on it deliberately?
Right.
No, it wouldn't be right if I didn't have a reason to.
So if there was just a dog lying right here,
Yeah.
and you stepped on it and you killed the dog, that would be wrong, correct?
It would be wrong if I did it deliberately, yes.
So you know the difference between right and wrong.
Absolutely. I am on the side of right and good. That is why I did what I did. I thought that was clear.
And isn't it true you simply didn't walk into the house, walk into the room, and kill the old man?
Yeah, that's true.
It took you some time to plan, correct?
Absolutely, yes, of course I planned. I'm a meticulous, intelligent person putting together a plan. That's what you do when you want to accomplish something.
And you thought about it before you did it.
Sure.
And you planned it out.
Yeah.
And you executed the plan.
Yeah, I like your pun.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Defense, make your closing argument to the jury.
Okay, even though my client would like you to believe that he was of complete and total sound mind when he did these things, I would like for you to think about a couple of things that he himself has told you along the way, all right? Number one, he has told all of you that you are insane, okay? He's told you that you are insane. You're not insane. You wouldn't be here if you were insane. He is here because he is insane. Okay, so I just want you to remember that. I also want you to remember that after he killed this old man, he chose one of the hardest ways to conceal the body, okay? He could have just taken him out, dumped him out the window, put him in a trash can. But what did he do? No, he dismembered the body, looking at the body the whole time, just like chilling with the body. That's weird. It's weird, okay? That's what crazy people do. So he was chilling with this body the whole time, thought that he was good enough to get past it all, but then in the end, after he did all of this hard, difficult work, who gave himself away? He did. You know what insane people do? They give themselves away after trying for a really, really hard time to get away with something. He spent hours, he bragged about how meticulous he was in his work, but then in the end, he brought his own downfall. I don't even think I could spell it out any clearer. That's insanity. Your turn.
Prosecution, make your closing argument to the jury.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Counsel here wishes you to give this man a free pass. They would like to have you let him walk out of this courtroom into a psychiatric hospital where he will get 3 meals a day, air conditioning, HBO, NFL Sunday Pass, and all of that. She wants a free pass to a psychiatric hospital. Yet counsel here hasn't met her burden of proof. You saw no doctor put on the witness stand testifying that he had been examined, found to be insane. None of that. All she does is stand up here and ask you to give him a free pass. What did he tell you? He told you, the defendant told you, that he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the difference between right and wrong. He knows the difference. He told you that he, in a premeditated fashion, came in, planned it out, went to the home, and killed his neighbor. Counsel here wants you to believe that she has an eye for this. There is no eye. He doesn't get a free pass to walk away without any punishment simply because counsel says there was an eye involved. And we're not talking about I, we're talking about I. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I think we have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that this man shouldn't get 3 meals a day, air conditioning, HBO, and Sunday Pass. That he should go to jail, and he should be held responsible for that which he did. The defense counsel has simply not met her burden of proof. The state of Virginia has an obligation to ensure that those who are guilty pay the appropriate price. Counsel here lectures you, doesn't ask questions, she lectures you on her direct examination. This is a search for the truth. This is a search for facts. The defendant here has admitted his guilt. He has admitted the crime. He's admitted it was premeditated. He's admitted he knows the difference between right and wrong, and he did the act. So the question is, do you give this man a free pass? Do you let him go and enjoy time in a comfortable psychiatric hospital? And again, counsel here has failed. No doctors, no proof, just an evil eye. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention. But on behalf of the people of the state of Virginia, gotta remember the right state, I ask you to find this man guilty of murder. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please retire and deliberate and return when you are ready to deliver your verdict. You have 2 choices: guilty or not guilty by reason of insanity. If found guilty, and thus of sound mind, the punishment will be death. The punishment will be we'll spin the wheel. If found not guilty by reason of insanity, and thus insane, the punishment will be confinement to an institution.
Yeah, you're welcome to come up here and use the mic or whatever you'd like to do.
Anyone want to start a discussion? Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Yeah. Guilty.
All right, raise your hand for guilty.
Oh wait, I have an argument.
Oh, an argument? Okay, go ahead.
The prosecution has argued that he knows that he knows the difference between right and wrong, but I would argue that he does not know the difference between right and wrong, because as he clearly stated, he considered the killing of the man to be an eradication of evil and therefore a right act. And if he does not, if he did not know the difference between right and wrong in that case, then that meets the standards for not guilty by reason of insanity.
So I would argue that whether or not he knew right from wrong or believed that what he did was right, if I do something that I hold to be true and just, I don't hide it. He went through all of these planning steps to make sure that no one heard. He hid the body. If he believed that he was right and that he had destroyed evil, then why hide the body? So I would say that he knew that what he was doing was wrong. Maybe not to himself. He was doing what was right in his own mind, but he knew that he was breaking the law. So to me, the argument is not did he think he was right, not did he think it was the devil he was killing. He knew what he was doing was breaking the law. So that's what we're here to judge him for.
Any follow-up?
But Satan hides. And we don't know if this man was evil or not. I say if he was evil and this man did us a favor by getting him off this earth, it's like the soldier on the battlefield. You know, it is not murder if you kill the enemy combatant. And maybe he was afraid that maybe society, I agree with your argument that he was just trying to hide the evidence. He knew what he was doing would be perceived. It was not wrong. What he was doing was honorable. But it would be perceived that he had done something wrong, and that's why we're in this courtroom today. And he was trying to hide the evidence of his heroic act to get rid of this evil. My thoughts are, we do not know whether this man was evil or not. I'm suspicious about the act.
I like to say it was a heinous crime. To dismember a body, I think that's saying that you're more than crazy.
We don't know what the eye looked like.
Do you have a picture of the guy?
Show us eye.
He says that he was committed the act in order to eradicate evil, and he was doing the work of God. But the Bible itself says that in the Ten Commandments that thou shalt not kill. So, is it right or wrong?
One thing that is pretty clear is that what he tried to kill was an eye, not a person. And I think that if you're crazy enough to want to kill an eye and in the process kill a person, you're nuts. So I think that that's where he is. He's nuts.
I believe something that's also extremely important in this matter is the heart. The defendant believed that he heard the heart beating post-mortem after definitely saying that there was no pulse. So possibly, if we had the cop's testimony, we could see if they were interested, if that is what happened, but still possible insanity there.
Right.
You know, I tend to think that the defendant knew what he was doing, because we talk as though he didn't get away with it. He basically did. And when someone came in to question if something had happened, the body was buried underneath the floorboards. There were no stains, according to the story. It was the beating heart of the body that caused the defendant to lose his cool and admit that someone was buried underneath. And I think that was an admission of guilt there. That was the defendant's conscience essentially admitting that what he had done was wrong. I feel like if the defendant was truly crazy, what you would have done is keep your cool, send those guys away, and then of course dig up the floorboards, cut out the heart, crush it, and you'd just be done with it. I mean, you just go through a couple extra steps. But the fact that the defendant lost his cool and essentially admitted to the whole thing, I think deep down in his mind, he realized what he had done was wrong, that he had gone overboard, and it was essentially an admission of guilt and an admission of sanity.
I think he's insane, but I really want him to spin the wheel.
Anyone else?
I think there's a question about when he went insane. He planned this thing, he knew right from wrong, he was sane when he did it, and then he went insane as he did it. Food for thought.
Seems pretty convenient.
I would argue that he was insane all the time. Because what did he hear? He heard a dead man's heart beating when it wasn't, because he was insane.
The prosecutor referred to Virginia as a state and not a commonwealth.
Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Alright, ready to vote? Alright, all those in favor of guilty, raise your hand.
Wait, is it guilty? Insanity?
Guilty.
Guilty.
Wait, guilty, go to
Guilty, go to jail. Guilty, go to jail.
Go to jail, hang your britches on there. Guilty,
I believe guilty. I just thought it should have been brought up because the defense wasn't very good, which I don't blame her for because she's not a lawyer. Yeah.
Not guilty, raise your hand. That's your total.
I think the defense should have hammered
By reason of insanity.
the belief in God. Like, you weren't killing a person, you were killing.
Well, I think that narcissism and belief of a higher purpose are divine. And plus, conscious, all those things you do not prove.
It's guilty by 44.
Because there's a lot of people.